Okay, so where do we go from here? If the Congress authorizes, the USSC will continue our initiatives with the Palestinian Ministry of Interior to transform, to professionalize, and to restructure the Palestinian security forces in the West Bank through more training and equipping, more capacity building, intensified work with the European Union, and more infrastructure. We have plans on the books right now to train and equip 3 more battalions in Jordan. That's approximately 1,500 more of the national security forces, and 2 more operational base camps to be built to house them. We have plans to expand our senior leader training to include middle-level officers. We're aware that there's a need for a functional logistical and administrative structure that's unique to the Palestinian Authority, and we're working hard with the Ministry of Interior and the security chiefs to design such a thing that will work for Palestinians. And we're working closely with Israeli military commanders in the West Bank to explore options to further reduce the IDF footprint as the Palestinian capability and proven abilities grow. There has been progress already. I want to make sure you know that. As far as the IDF efforts to present a reduced Israeli security presence, especially in the north. Through the efforts of our British team in Ramallah, we've also taken on the neglected Palestinian Civil Defense Organization. Most of you have never heard of it, but these are the first responders. These are the EMTs and the ambulances and the firemen. We've taken them under our wing. They're in our budget. We're going to help them. And we also have something in our pocket called the West Bank Training Initiative, where we have plans to continue a series of courses in the West Bank on logistics, leadership, first aid, maintenance, English language, battalion staff training, and driver's education. These are led by our British and Turkish officers, with an eye to eventually turning this over to the Palestinians themselves. But let me go back to the theme, peace through security. Can it really happen? That's a tough one. Do we have a long way to go? You bet we do. And the challenges along the way are formidable. Time may not be on our side. Very serious work needs to be done on terrorism, and we are actively exploring options with the Palestinians, with the Jordanians, and with the Israelis. If we are to have a Palestinian state, there is also serious work ahead on borders and crossings management, something which the Canadians on my team are in the lead. And then, of course, there's Gaza and the armed formations of Hamas that present an enormous challenge to the future of a Palestinian state. But I would tell you it's not hopeless. The continuous presence in the region of a small but dedicated team of American, Canadian, Turkish, and British officers who work with all sides, who live there, and who understand the terrain in a military sense is beginning to pay off. We're building new facts on the ground from the bottom up, and we have genuine partners in the Kingdom of Jordan, the Palestinian Authority, and the State of Israel. We can't do it all, of course. The negotiators and the politicians have their work cut out for them, but we believe we are creating conditions, a security foundation, if you will, that will make their very difficult task a little bit easier. I take to heart the much repeated words of my friend, a very senior, tough, pragmatic leader in the Israeli Defense Forces. He was formerly a severe critic, not anymore. Now he says, and I'm quoting him here directly from a newspaper article, the USSC is doing a great job, and as the Palestinians do more, we, the Israelis, will do less. Now, as far as I'm concerned, those are words to live by and to make a reality. So again, the theme of this talk, peace through security. The road to peace in this region is a very difficult one. All of you know that. I would say it goes through forests of misunderstanding, lack of trust, old wounds, political and institutional weakness, and spoilers who would like to see us all fail. And there are dangers every step of the way. But compared with past years, we are now on that road, and we can make out the outlines of the destination ahead. We are moving forward. Peace through security is no longer an impossible dream. I think it was Herzl who said many years ago, if you will it, it is not a dream. As a professional military officer, I appreciate Israeli caution and Palestinian impatience. But sometimes it's useful to look backward as you look forward. I recall vividly a meeting in February with a hardened IDF officer with great direct responsibility for the security of Israel. We were talking in his headquarters about what didn't happen in the West Bank in January and the prospects for the future. He sat back in his chair and he smiled and he said, quote, "The change among the new Palestinian men in the past year is miraculous. Mine was the generation that grew up with intifadas, and now I have hope that my children won't have to do the same thing." And as a result, he pledged to take prudent risks to move things forward, and he has been true to his word. He remains cautious but hopeful. Me too. Okay, I promised you 2 Churchill stories, so I'm going to end with one. And the last line of this story I want you to think about, because that's kind of how we see ourselves right now in May of 2009 in the USSC. And this is one of my favorite stories about Churchill. I hope it doesn't offend anybody in the group. It was late in the Second World War. The tide was clearly going in favor of the Allies. And so Churchill's secretary was scheduling him appointments with civilian lobbying groups. And lo and behold, on this particular day, the secretary had scheduled a meeting with the chairwoman of the British Christian Temperance Union. Okay? You can see where this is going, I'm sure. At the appointed time, into Winston's large office in Whitehall, strode this little old lady with a big hat who walked up in front of his desk and without stopping for a breath started to scold him about his drinking habits. "Winston," she said, "we have calculated the amount of intoxicating beverage you have consumed since the beginning of this war, and it would fill your office halfway from the floor to the ceiling. You are a disgrace. What do you have to say for yourself?" Well, again, Winston, never at a loss for words, he reportedly moved over to the side of his desk, put his hands in his pocket, and he looked down at the floor, he looked up at the ceiling, and he said, "Ah, yes, madam, so much accomplished, but so much more to be done." Thank you very much.